This is Mo,
And this is Arye,
and you're listening to
the Relatable Podcast.
Whoa, buddy! Arye, slow down. What podcast?
Two cool guys sitting down together, discussing deep ideas in entertaining fashion. We're really like going in your alleyway. I'll tell you the truth. With Rav Simcha Rabbah, the amount of research we did, especially on IFS, because since that's his specialty, we really wanted to get very in depth and understanding.
He's very in
And over here, I just wanted to zoom out for 1 second. You told me you're very proficient in all different, therapeutic modalities, such as you train in IFS. You said level 3, I believe.
Yeah.
What were the other ones that you dabbled in?
Yeah, so I dabble in, it's a great word.
That's a discount to your expertise.
I got my feet a little wet.
Yeah, exactly. Dip my toes in, IFS, I did level 1, 2, 3. I'm a certified ketamine facilitator.
Well, can we talk about that for 1 second? We
Yeah,
can go into it at all with Simcha Rabbah, and it's been like onto my mind. Like, what the flip is ketamine therapy?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So ketamine therapy is, or officially it's called ketamine assisted psychotherapy. So we're using ketamine to assist the psychotherapeutic process. So, it's basically like you're going through a therapeutic process and you want to deepen it in certain ways. You want to complement, you want to maximize certain aspects of it. So we'll use, I'm forgetting like the clinical word for, we'll use ketamine to try to maximize your healing journey.
And how is that accomplished?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think kind of where to jump in over there just to give a basic understanding of it. What we do is, so I'll start here. So ketamine itself, what we know is that...
Is it a horse tranquilizer?
Yeah, growing up,
it is,
I definitely heard that a lot also.
As well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
More recently, what I've been hearing is that it's used in, hospitals all the time, in like the hatzalas, like ambulances.
Really?
Like they all have ketamine. Like ready
Is
to
it
go,
like a calming type of high? Is it like super energetic? What's it like?
Yeah.
Like it's not cocaine, obviously.
Right.
No one's doing therapy on cocaine. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Do push-ups.
Very, very different. Yeah. Like affects you differently. So we'll start when it's used in ambulances, hospitals. So it's used as an anesthetic, right? And it's considered a very safe anesthetic because even when you're under, your breathing systems and all those things are still working very regularly. So those aren't affected. So that's why it's considered very, very safe as an anesthetic. Now, therapeutically, we use it at a much, much lighter dose, that you're not totally under, like an anesthetic for surgery type.
Right.
So you're still present, but it's definitely still disassociative. And you're having, either like an out-of-body type of experience or a psychedelic type of experience.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How present are you though? Like when you're doing it, meaning like.
So it depends on the dose. Like if you're taking a lighter dose, you'll be maybe a little bit more present. Obviously, it's different for everybody.
Sure.
Like you could have somebody taking a very light dose and they are like they'll blast off. Yeah. Like
I'm bad at the times with these stuff. I would be like. I would smell it. I would be gone for sure. Is this similar to ayahuasca?
It's a good question. In terms of the experience, right? The reason they consider it a psychedelic when they're in like the therapeutic world and they consider it like that is because of the experience, that it offers. The way that it actually interacts with our brain and those kinds of things, ketamine, from what I understand, is considered different than like your classic psychedelics. So like psilocybin, mushrooms, or ayahuasca or DMT. But because of the experience that it offers, so they consider it.
They put it under that umbrella.
Exactly. So I think they'll officially call it like a dissociative anesthetic, and you'll have very possibly a psychedelic experience as well.
What would draw somebody into like taking that? That step up from just having regular therapy.
Yeah, definitely. So let's so ketamine itself, right? So what we know is that the way that it interacts with us, the way that in terms of like as a medicine, the way it's interacting with our brain, so it very much like opens up the brain, right? In our brain we have these like neural networks, neural pathways. Right. A lot of things are like tied together, right? What what's the phrase? What fires together wires together. So for example, if every time you go into a shul, something negative happens, so shul and negative feelings, right? So those become very associated.
Nice.
And that's why even though it's a different shul and it's different people, it's very possible you might go in and you might get, what we call triggered, and you might start having emotions.
Whoa. Wait, triggered is very overused. You're saying it's actual neural pathway that's developed between the negative experience and those negative emotions.
100%. Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Like people's places, things is a phrase I think in like AA. And, because even though it's not, because our brain, it could be, this is more of another conversation, but our brain works based on associations, right?
Meaning
it's not
what?
so
What do we
much in
associate
time.
this person, place, or thing with what emotion?
Meaning
Right?
what? Well, what would be an example? Like a practical day-to-day.
Yeah. So like something heavy is going to hurt me, right? So our system knows that because it's associating weight or the way something looks, right? Like if there's a huge box and you don't actually know if that's a heavy box or not a heavy box, it starts falling towards you. Your body is already, exactly. Which the fact that it's already happening automatically. So that's like on a subconscious level, like it's really in your brain, the association of it. Another example would be, let's say something we could see in like the therapeutic world. If let's say somebody had some sexual trauma, let's say. So let's say that happened. Is it?
Yeah,
it's okay to.
Of course.
Okay, and I apologize to in advance.
We're gonna
to
make
any
a disclaimer
listeners.
to any of the children.
Yeah, for sure.
Parental advisory, like.
For sure. And
Yeah.
of course, at the same time, very important to talk about these things, and for anybody who might feel anything coming up, to recognize that all parts are welcome. It is a safety system that loves you and is there to protect you, and that's why you're feeling whatever you're feeling, if you're feeling while listening to this conversation, and to always feel free to reach out to any support that you have, to be able to connect to that and to work through that. So let's say that happens, somebody has, some sexual trauma, and in general, those things happened in a school, or let's say those things happened, just for a simple example, in a bathroom, right? So it's not uncommon that when that individual is walking past the bathroom, that they're having an emotional and bodily response. Like their body will get tense.
Yeah.
They'll feel certain emotions. Their thoughts, either they'll totally like disassociate and their thoughts will just shut down, or will go into overdrive and they'll start having all these thoughts. Wow. So associations, that's like the name of the game. How things are associated. That's why mindfulness is becoming so big, to be able to not be so, with your reactions that are happening, out there in the world. Because if you're lost in your thoughts and your emotions, then, there's so many associations that we all have. Whenever you're walking anywhere,
everything is just
everything is controlling you.
Right.
Exactly. Like the weather is deciding how your day is going to be.
Nice.
As opposed to mindfulness, which is the idea of, I'm just non-judgmentally being aware of what's happening. I'm observing what's happening. So I'm, the bird's eye view is a phrase that I like to use. And I got my thoughts and I got my emotions,
But I'm kind of in the control of the self, or the core, the soul.
Exactly.
Kind of sees all those.
So
exactly. And when you get really good at that, you practice that skill, the more you dribble, the better the better you then get at dribbling. So the better you get at being able to take that step back, the closer you get to being able to live in a beginner's mind kind of way, that like experiences feel new and you're open to the experience. It's not past experiences are stopping you from fully engaging and fully interacting.
Can you expand on that? Meaning what?
Yeah, could we get some practical techniques that maybe you would use on clients that would help, separate the experience from the emotion that you're reacting, like the reaction, I guess?
Yeah,
Like how do we start our journey on disassociating with that?
Great question.
Is it a practical journey? Is it it's accessible to all?
Of course, yeah.
This is one-on-one.
All of this is totally accessible. It's all already in you. Everything everybody needs,
nice,
or everything one needs.
You already got it.
Is in them. Yeah, we already have it. It's already in there. There are additional things that we can gain from the outside as well. But in terms of like connecting to ourselves, in terms of being able to live this life, where we feel mindful and free to experience and joy. So that's already in us. So one way is ketamine assisted psychotherapy.
Nice.
How you doing? Hit him up, baby.
Wait, but there's no way it does sound a little bit, because I'm very tempted by these ideas. It sounds,
Yeah.
first of all, I feel a person has to be open-minded because it's very easy to discount. It's drugs. What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's practically illegal. You have to go to some
Right.
forest, at least for the ayahuasca
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So I feel there needs to be an open-mindedness to, like, yeah, it depends on the context. You know, the same way if you go to hospital and they give you drugs, like, it all depends on the context.
Yeah. Sure.
But that's it. Like, I definitely did some research into it. Obviously, it gives you a lot of insight, but then the person has to work with it, obviously. It's not just like a magic pill that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Like the way we say it is that it's not a. I think we say that it's not a silver bullet. You know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So, right. So a bunch of things definitely just came up in those last few minutes. So I'm thinking. So
Mindfulness, ketamine assisted therapy.
Yeah. So
we're pushing that one. That's number one.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
So let's go there. So with ketamine assisted psychotherapy. So taking it back to the brain. So what we know it's doing on like a medicine level is that it's opening us up, right? It's opening up those associations and giving us space to be with those things that have been so heavily associated. So it's giving me space to be with shul and not so heavily tied with all the negative emotions tied to it, let's say.
Is that a common one? You keep on using synagogue shul? Is that a common one that you find?
I'm not sure that I've ever actually specifically had shul. It was just more popped into my mind.
Well, what's an example that comes to mind? Like a practical one that you see day to day?
So firstly, yeah, so you just got me curious why shul came to my mind. Could be shul because maybe that's personal for me.
Right.
I know sometimes like I have a hard time
For
going
sure.
to shul.
Big time.
A more common experience would be, let's say, depression, right? So
Okay.
So let's say you have an individual who is struggling with feeling hope and having positive associations towards themselves. Like they think very negatively about themselves, right?
A lot of negative self-talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what's common and what we're trying, one of the things that we'll try to create within the ketamine experience would be that they're relating to themselves in a new way. So every time they're relating to themselves, let's say
Previously.
negative shaming thoughts, now we're going to try to create an experience that you're relating to yourself
In a positive
and those
way.
other associations aren't there. We're going to try to create a very safe and positive experience, and then they're relating to themselves in a new way. And because those associations are open, then they also kind of stay open for a little bit, right? For a few days, a week.
That was gonna be my question. Like, how does that last? Okay, great, you're high for 2 hours and you have this great, fantastic experience.
Yeah.
But carrying on, do you have to do it, once a month, or is that something that's gonna last with you?
Yeah. So it really depends on the individual, but we kind of monitor it as we go. What's amazing is that a lot of the internal wisdom kind of comes up, right? So taking it back for a moment to the experience. So, the associations become open, and then you're also having another therapy session a few days later, right? So you're prepping, right? Where we get an idea of what it is that you're struggling with, where we get an idea of your current views of yourself, maybe life, maybe even God, like we really try to get a
Foundation,
holistic
a background, like where we're holding.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. We try to map out the parts, to use the IFS term.
That's a lot of work already, by the way. My whole perspective is shifting. You don't
It's
just
very
come in
intensive.
and it's beforehand. There's a prep. Okay, keep
very,
going. I
very
like that.
intensive.
Yeah.
It's like however many weeks you're doing it for.
Yeah.
It's very intensive.
Sounds.
We're spending a lot of time together, So we have that prep session, and then you come in for the experience, right? So you come in, it's a nice bed, it's a nice room, and then you have your actual ketamine journey, right? Where me and you don't really interact. You lay back, you have the mask on, and you have, whatever the experience sort of brings. And the set and the setting, right? Like you mentioned before, I think about like the context, like we create a very safe context. You're there with your therapist. It's like you have all the space in the world, and like whatever comes up is totally welcome. And, imagine just having like a non-ordinary state of consciousness type of experience. And it's like so safe. Like you don't have to worry about anything. Like you can just be with whatever comes. So that happens. And, people tend to have a very profound experience. It's a non-ordinary state of consciousness. And then they come out, and then we'll usually process whatever happened for like the next hour.
Wow.
And then we'll meet up again a few days later, and we'll have another session.
Can we use the example of depression? And I just wanted to
Sure.
step in those shoes. So that person, he would what would be an example of where he has this insight and he would realize that why?
Yeah. So during the prep, for sure, if it's an individual that, and a therapist that's like been working together. So at that point, so you really want to have a good idea of like what it is that's going on there, a basic understanding of, what the, what like the underlying beliefs and motivators are, like what the parts, when you're connecting to the parts that are holding that hopelessness, like what's the history there? What's going on there? And like you get a sense of the story, you get a sense of what's happening there. Okay, so then they'll come in, and usually for the first session we give a lighter dose just to kind of feel it out, especially if they haven't had these kinds of experiences. And then whatever comes up is welcome, whether it's a difficult experience or not. Many times it's very connected to what it is that we've been talking about. Many times not. Many times it's something totally new. Like, whoa, like I was a piece of dust and Hashem, and
Wow.
So it could
That's
be
crazy.
it could be very
Yeah.
And and again, like we really prepare that any experience is welcome. There's no such thing as a bad trip.
But you keep on mentioning that. What does that mean? As opposed to
Yeah.
in day-to-day life, sometimes I'll feel an emotion but shut it down because I sense that it's not welcomed.
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring to, or
When I said what?
meaning you keep on mentioning that it's a safe spot? That's a big idea in therapy also. That's a safe space. Any emotions, let's express it.
Yeah.
You feel fuming mad at your parents? Good. Express that. Not good. It just is like awesome,
Yeah, sure.
Well, I guess it's opposed to day-to-day life where we're so used on the survival mode, shutting down different aspects of ourselves.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Is that-
And that's an awesome question, because specifically in the ketamine assisted psychotherapy research, they talk about set and setting, which is the mindset. The set refers to your mindset coming in, and then the setting of where you are. And they talk about how they're seeing how that makes so much of a difference.
Whoa.
And I think that's why many times you'll see like, why when this individual spoke with his friends about what happened to him, it was just kind of a storytelling kind of feeling. But then they're sitting in a therapy session and they're talking about what happened, and then there's like this, it's like an emotional experience, and they feel like they almost kind of, the word we use in the mental health world maybe amongst therapists would be like processing it more. But I wanted to see if I can use a more specific word.
Instead of just blabbering it out, you're like
exactly
going through
working
the
through it, feeling
That's
it,
very cool. I really
living
I
it, feeling
like
it
that a lot.
viscerally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I sense that, yeah.
Which is
And
what
that's-
we really aim for, like a felt experience.
That's because of the setting you're saying.
That has a big part of it. Yeah, that's safety. That when you're talking through it, like there's totally no judgment, and there's full support, and there's unconditional positive regard, which means no matter what it is you're mentioning, there's positive regard for who you are. You're valued, and just in that space, it's a beautiful thing what two humans sitting together can create.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
There's clearly a lot of positives that we're talking about. I'm sure it's used for good reasons. Is there any negatives to the ketamine therapy?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So firstly, just to wrap up kind of how it looks. So the individual comes in, they have an experience now. In the experience itself, so the depressed individual, let's say, or the individual that has, a part carrying sadness and hopelessness and, negative self-view. So that's very much what their default is. So when they're on the ketamine experience, as well as, I haven't done too much research in other psychedelics because I'm just more with what's in the clinical world, and I'm more of the practitioner more than a researcher. So the default mode network, it's called, right? I love that phrase because it's like, it just kind of says it so well. Like we all have a default mode network, like our default way of being, and that goes down.
Well,
and it's important to recognize that, a person who's depressed or anxious, those are parts that are working very hard, to be able exactly to protect, to prevent, or they're reactive.
Yeah.
So those parts are going down, and then
they're taking a rest. Like, oh, you're chilled.
Exactly.
Good.
Exactly.
And then you could see what's behind.
Exactly. Yeah. So either what's behind, or maybe those parts relax to the point that you could just be interacting with them.
They're not so tense and defensive.
Exactly.
Nice.
It's not like an infected wound. It's like you touch it.
Yeah.
It's like, It's all like intense just to touch it. Even looking at it could be intense,
Yeah.
So it's very relaxing. It's like a disassociative. It's very relaxing that you can really start to interact with your system in a new way, and you can gain new insight, even to the point that if those parts really go down and like you really have like, you even go beyond those parts to, you know, whether it's to the exiles, you know, to your pain that's being protected, or to just other parts of you that you haven't had access to, that gives you a lot of insight.
Wow.
That gives you a lot of wisdom, right? So we like to say, you know, like trust the medicine, you know,
Yeah.
it does its thing, and then trust yourself, because your
Nice.
internal wisdom just comes up. Your system knows what it needs to do,
Yeah.
you know, and when it feels safe, which is the kind of setting that we go for and what the medicine is helping us do also, you feel so safe that your system, it's just in like a different place that you can interact with it, and it can show you itself more, and you can get to know yourself more, because that's what happens when we're in safe settings.
Why
you know,
why don't we
the
trust
authentic
ourselves?
us.
Why does it take so much outside external help? Whether it's a safe setting and safe people and ketamine assisted therapy, why can't I just trust myself? I know everything that I need to do. It's all inside.
Such a beautiful
I have to
question.
do all of this just to access what's here already.
Such a beautiful question. A question that I ask myself all the time. You know,
Really?
like where have we lost that? And it's something that I interact with a lot. You know, like the lack of trust. You know, like a common question that can come up in therapy can be like, you know, like if somebody has a certain fear, and then you kind of are trying to get a better understanding of that. So so an example could kind of be like, oh, like I have to let me see if I can get like a fire example. Feel free to throw out an example of like an anxiety. Like I have to
I have to go to chakras.
you know, go to chakras. Amazing.
Morning prayer services.
I get
Okay.
down.
Awesome. Nice. Great example. I have to go to chakras. Now, if you'll want to explore that, you know, so you can just, you know, kind of ask, like, because if I don't go to chakras, what would happen then? You know? Now, some people may just say like, nothing. Like, I just want to go to chakras.
Wait, but it is easy to chalk up, especially when it comes to religious observance. What do you mean? You have to. The code of law. Well, you're going to break that?
Yeah.
God said I have to go. What are you taking up with me for?
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
So it's very easy to just
So
chalk
I
it up.
love the way that, you know, like the energy that you even just kind of said that with.
I'm happy you picked that up. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause like for sure, like
Right.
God says to do that. So we'll do that. And I'm just curious for your relationship with it, for the way that you're viewing it, you know, when you're holding that I need to go, and it seems like there's that intensity there. So I just want to understand, you know, because if you don't go, what would happen then? You know, because it seems it's not so much what you're doing, but it's how you're doing it, you know? And it sounds like you want to go to chakras because Hashem wants to. It sounds like you value Hashem. It sounds like you want a relationship with Hashem. Hey, I'm on your team.
Right.
So let's make chakras amazing.
Right. But why is it? It's interesting to note. And I was very aware of how I said it.
Yeah, nice.
Of how it just came out with a, what do you mean? Like, whoa, you're even agreeing with me, of course.
Yeah.
I could show you where God said it.
Yeah.
And which verse he stated that.
Exactly.
But like, great.
We could go to chakras together.
Sick.
Let's be chavrusas, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
If I said, right, I'm just thinking about it as a relationship. If I said, I need to hang out with my friends. Like, well, yeah, of course. Like, we're all going to the same ballpark. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Right.
Yeah,
but it's the intensity that it comes out with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's like a defensiveness. And it's like, hey, you know, you want to go to chakras, so let's make it, you know, the most amazing kind of chakras which we could. But if that's coming from some sort of fear, you know, not that makes it any less authentic or any less valid.
Don't we all have fear associated with it? Meaning, like, you have a have for Hashem and you have fear for Hashem. There's two ways that you need both, obviously.
For sure.
But
wait, slow down. Translate. Meaning what?
Meaning that to keep the Torah, like the Torah mitzvahs, shomer this, that, whatever.
Yeah.
There has to be a certain level of fear. You know, when you're about to do something really, really bad, you're not gonna just stop right there because you love Hashem so much. No, you're gonna stop right there because you fear Hashem. You have to have the fear. The question is the fear taking over the whole process? Meaning, am I only going to chakras because Hashem told me to? I have to. Like, I must.
Right.
If I'm not, then I'm not a good yid. If not, then Hashem doesn't love me.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
For sure. So first of all, nice. You know, like I love the way you know spoke that out clearly. And yeah, you know, again, especially when it comes to like, you know, Yiddishkeit, if that works for you, if that's okay for you, So then for sure,
Do you think that's the case for anybody though? You think it does
that
work?
genuinely works?
That you think that works? Yeah.
Wow.
Do you
Wait,
think
what's that? I'm getting lost.
Sorry for not being clear about it, but like I think that what I'm saying is that like someone that just goes to chakras, that's like just going because he's going.
Yeah.
And that everybody else goes. I'm in yeshiva. I go. Everybody else goes.
Yeah.
My guy comes to wake me up at 8:00 in the morning every single day, and I wake up.
I'm not
go to
referring
chakras.
to that. I'm not referring to somebody who's just doing it because everybody else is. He's a sheep. I was talking about myself, which is
Sure.
a fear-based thing.
Right.
Right.
This is what you were discussing before, fear and love of God, right? So not so much of a person who just does because he's floating around and he happens to wake up early. Rather, Yehuda was pointing out that when I was talking about a religious obligation, it was coming from such an intense place and such a tension-filled obligation, as opposed to, yeah, it's an obligation. I think you were touching on the idea that maybe defending me, like, Yehuda, what do you mean? There's a basic idea that I need to fear God. I don't know if I want to get so much involved in that because, I mean, if you have any, but again, I know myself, that's me. If I would utilize what you just said, I have a great defense mechanism. Yehuda, someone attacked me. Whoa, Aryeh, what's with the intensity about chakras, about praying in the morning?
Yeah.
And I could respond, right? If my personality is to fight when I'm attacked.
Exactly. Nice.
Is to say, what do you mean, Yehuda? You're wrong because I have to fear God.
Yeah.
You're the one in the wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So I just I don't even know. I'm not well versed enough to know whether or not that's accurate. I do know that obviously fear is not how we normally understand it. It's not that this dictator is going to blow me up with an RPG.
Right.
That's not my relationship with God.
Right.
I know that for sure.
Right.
But I don't even have to get so involved with the ins and outs and the intricacies of fear versus love. Rather, I know also that's coming from a place of defending myself rather than actually believing it.
Right.
You know?
Nice. Yeah. Exactly.
I hear that for
exactly.
sure.
Right. Exactly. Like, you
Coming
know,
from two different angles.
What is fear? What is love? And of Hashem? And, you know, like there's definitely that
That's like an intellectual academic pursuit. Okay, fine. So go to the study hall and figure that out. Like,
yeah.
You know?
Or it's Rabbi Fisher Shiurim.
Head
that's
you
it.
down.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so, you know, even, like you could even just use any other example with any relationship. Like if it's like, I need to be nice to my wife. And then it's like, oh, because if you weren't nice, what would happen? Yo, what? You're telling me that I shouldn't be nice to my wife?
Right.
It's like, hey man. Yeah. Like I'm just trying to get a better feel of kind of where this is coming from. Because again, it's not so much what you're doing. And with the IFS, this is very applicable.
The answer is why?
Exactly.
Like why you're doing
or like where it's coming from, why you're doing that. So if it's, you know, I'm going to chakras because I want to go to chakras because I'm interested in getting a better understanding of what it is. I'm interested in doing the right thing, whether I fully understand why it's the right thing, but it's coming from this like a more natural flow, like not restrictive, but expansive is sometimes the way we kind of say it. Like
exploring or curious.
Yeah. It's just a much lighter energy.
Right.
And then, so you're much more open and you're much more in a connecting zone also, right? Usually
It's an interesting point. Could you expand on that?
What like of a connecting zone?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So we have two main systems in our brain. We have the self-defense system and the social engagement system is kind of how they've termed it. And just to kind of, you know, keep it simple, which it's such a good way of keeping it simple. So the self-defense system is basically when we're in a defensive zone. So, you know, if we feel like we're in danger, and that can be true physically or emotionally.
Nice.
Or emotionally.
I was waiting for you to see that.
Yeah.
Nice.
And to the brain, it's actually interesting because to the brain, like it's kind of the same. You know, pain is pain to the brain. Our brains love us, by the way. Like our systems love us, you know? Like whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, our system doesn't want us to be engaged in that, you know? Okay, sometimes our parts cause us emotional pain or physical pain if it's self-harm, let's say, in order to protect us. Okay, so that's a good question.
But in a backwards way,
and we can go there. Exactly. It's a positive intention.
Yeah.
So whether it's emotional pain or physical pain, our system doesn't want us to feel that. And when it feels threatened, then it goes into self-defense mode. Now, when it goes into self-defense mode, certain things are shut down that might get in the way of me defending myself, right? Let's say I'm, you know, a soldier and I'm at war and like we're really in there, you know, and there's shooting and, you know, all that kind of stuff. My system doesn't want me to have so much access right now to like relationship building,
right?
To introspection,
You're in fight or flight,
to creativity. Yeah, exactly. you know, like it wants me to be very much in self-defense mode. Okay, certain styles of fighting, so they may try to like re-brainwash you that you could be all calm even when you're fighting. But for the most part, when our system is in self, or you know, that even kind of proves the point more, because when our system is in self-defense mode, it's very instinctual. It's very like certain parts of us are just kind of shut down so it doesn't get in the way. Like if a car, right? Classic example, if a car is coming at me, I don't have time to start cheshbening like, okay, the last time something heavy hit me, it gave me a boo-boo.
And he's coming 74 miles to my left rear of your mirror.
Exactly.
Right.
So it shuts it down. Instinct kicks in, gets us out of the way. Instinct, which is reaction, so it gets us out of the way.
Intuition also.
Exactly. Nice. Exactly. So if I'm anxious, right? If I'm socially anxious, which means that, you know, let's say in some basic way that I'm in fear of being embarrassed, then it's the same. I'm just like, I'm very reactive. Parts of me are shut down because I'm so on guard.
Right.
I don't have time to connect with you.
Whoa.
Now, social engagement, right, is where I'm feeling safe. Okay. This is why we want to raise our kids in safe environments, right? Where we feel safe emotionally, physically. Nowadays, it's much more emotionally, you know, we live in a much more physiological, like safe, convenient, you know, so that's why today we're much more connected. And our systems are much more like the focus and the ups and the downs is much more emotional, you know?
Wait, interesting. Can you bring that out?
Yeah, like it's basically...
Wait, do you mind if I ask it more as a piercing question?
Yeah.
Right? Because there could be, I mean, me and Mo were discussing this before you actually came on the set.
Sure.
Which is, there's a huge focus, especially in our worlds, but I do believe the public at large, on emotional health, well-being, mindfulness, therapeutic practices.
Yeah.
And I think it's a huge benefit, but there definitely is a big pushback. 100 years ago, they weren't focused on this. 20 years ago, my parents weren't focused on this. Grandparents for sure not.
Nice.
So it could come, I'm going to ask as an attack, even though I don't fully believe it, but were they doing something wrong? Did we discover something that they didn't have?
Such a big question.
Do we have the luxury now maybe? Like what exactly, how do you view it?
Yeah. Beautiful. So first, just to wrap up on that last point. So then we have the social engagement system, which, you know, gives access to our, you know, like creativity, connection, you know, intimacy, romance, you know, that's a very hard thing to do if you're all stressed and you're all like
Guarded up.
You know, exactly, guarded up. So there's a clear difference of being if you're in your self-defense mode or in your social engagement mode. And maybe it's not like either or, you know, like it's kind of a spectrum, but that's why, you know, connection happens, creativity happens. So if you're somebody that's always anxious, like there are beautiful parts of you that will bring you so much joy that we haven't even gained access to yet, you know, or to the extent which we could, because for protection, the self-defense system shuts those parts of our brains down.
Right.
You know,
I really want to touch on.
So that's how that works. Yeah.
I really want to touch on Arya's question after. I just have one quick thing.
Yeah.
This is obviously something that we all need to work on, myself and everybody listening. What are some like practical tips or bits that we could like try to implement on a day-to-day basis to hopefully get to a point where we're much more open and
amazing. Yeah.
You know,
amazing. Awesome. Yeah. So should we go to the practical first, or should we
Yeah,
go to
yeah,
the
yeah.
question
That's
first?
on the same.
practical?
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. Yeah. So practical ways, you know.
Is this tying into mindfulness also? Is that
Sure.
it goes hand in hand?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think you asked also for practical takeaways from mindfulness. I think it's the same idea. Mindfulness being more expansive, more open to the engaging parts of ourselves. So what would you?
Definitely. Beautiful. So I think, you know, Baruch Hashem, there's like so much out there, you know, in terms of how to be able to practically begin to create the life which we want to create, you know? So I think there's many ways, and I don't think there's necessarily one right way. And I think it's about each individual finding it for themselves. But, you know, right off the bat, you know, I think first beginning to feel more connected to yourself, right? Like we were talking before about trusting yourself, you know? So it's like, oh, because if I don't go to chakras, so then I'm not going to be, you know, religious, let's say. And it's like, well, do you want to be religious? Yes. So then why are we carrying that fear? You know, it's like you want to be able to really trust yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like you're raised up, like, you know, we're kind of raised sometimes thinking that we can't trust ourselves.
Right. It's a very narrow tightrope.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, man, like I, you know, don't like school. Of course you love school.
Right.
You know, wow. I really wish I could eat a cheeseburger now. no, that's not you, that's the Sahara, you know?
Interesting.
And I'm not saying whether these things are
I
true
like that example
or
a
not
lot.
true, but at the end of the day, basically what I'm taking from that is like, okay, so whatever's going on inside over here
Means nothing.
that feeling in my chest, like it's obviously wrong. If anything, it's probably bad.
It's evil. It's a devil reincarnated.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Literally,
Exactly. I have
as
to stay away
example.
from it. Yeah, it's all bad. Like there are these things that I want to do, and then I'm just being taught that if you want to do these things, it's not good, or like maybe if you want to do it, it's okay, but you can't, and it's like it's very confusing.
Especially at that young age.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
safest
For
thing
sure,
is definitely
yeah.
to shut it
It's a
down.
good point. You're literally developing those bad habits, and you're gonna live with that till you work on it or till the rest of your life, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And
It's very
and,
dangerous.
And you know, this is really big. You know, people struggle with making like decisions or being able to just explore what it is that they're doing all the time and to try to get an understanding of like where that's coming from. Because there's this fear many times, I think, that once we begin to explore, then I'm gonna like
Fall off.
ride off the rails. And it's like, do you want to ride off the rails? No. So then why would you ride off the rails? And it's like, oh, because it's not in my control maybe. And it's like, hey man, like you're 18, 19, 20, 21, 24, 17, 16. Like you're a very
Right.
capable person. You care a lot. It looks like you're trying really, really hard, you know?
Yeah.
Like I fundamentally believe people are trying their best, you know? We could do better, right? With certain skills, with certain, you know, levels of support for sure. But I think everyone's trying their best, you know? So if we can better our ear for what's happening inside of us, and if we can then also trust that voice, you know? And that's not to say that we don't need support, that we don't need other perspectives, but, you know, to really know how to listen to yourself and trust yourself, you know, which is basically the idea of having a good relationship with yourself, is so key.
So
Is
how does
key.
somebody? So what I'm
Right,
hearing
so
is
back to the
that
practical.
right.
Yeah.
Meaning we went from big ideal, which is mindfulness and being in touch with oneself, is to start developing a relationship with oneself.
Yeah.
So what are practical? Maybe going on dates with yourself is something that I try to implement.
Nice. Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm
that's
just
awesome.
curious.
So,
No, I don't mean to cut anybody off. I'm just curious, like, what is something you would personally use with a client, maybe, if that's something you could share?
Yeah, nice. So, right. So, firstly, you know, it's very beneficial to view these things as skills. So, the more you do it, the better you get, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned before, I think a guy who doesn't know how to dribble, and I've seen guys who really do not know how to dribble. It's
In basketball.
like the ball is like it bounces and then their hand hits the ball like too fast.
awkward.
It's very awkward. It's very uncomfortable. And then, you know, so the more you dribble, the better you get at dribbling. The better you are at dribbling, the more you can do it without even thinking about it, right? It's like people aren't so consciously thinking about dribbling while they're playing the game. Like they get so good at it that they can have all their focus on the defender, on their team, so much more other than the dribbling. So that's just the beauty of a skill, and it could become so natural. So, so that being said, which I think is such an important thing to start with, because it's not so much about, oh, this isn't working for me. It's like, I'm getting better at it. You know, I'm becoming more calm. I'm becoming more relaxed. I'm
process.
becoming smarter in this area. Exactly.
And I'm not gonna be perfect, right? Sometimes when there's that lapse of where I totally lose myself, I'm like, damn it, that's it, I'm done. Like I can't do this. And you're saying no because I just started and I'm in the beginning stages or intermediate level, and it's gonna take time.
Exactly. And slow is fast, you know, like the guy who's really going there, he's dribbling, you know, next thing you know, he's dribbling, and you know, the guy who's working out.
Yeah.
So not so much like, sometimes I know it could be hard, that idea of like trust the process, and it's like I kind of want to be there already, and you know, so we can like talk about that in different ways to kind of view it, but first just to be aware that, you know, effective living is a very skillful way of living. You know, you have the, you know, right tools, you know what tools work for you, and you've gotten really good at those tools, you know. So, you know, for me, let's say for example, for me, when I get very stressed and I'm with my kids, you know, it can take me like a couple of minutes to breathe, to relax. And when I have committed myself to self-regulation with my kids, so it gets faster, you know? It's just like with anything new. It's like I want to have kavana during Shmona Esrei, you know? There's like a lot of Hebrew words. What do these Hebrew words mean? What is it? And then the more you do it, so it could become faster also. And then once it becomes faster, because you know the words, now there's more space for like more depth, you know? So
So
it's
Connect
just,
them more
second
personally.
nature.
yeah. So I just love that idea of skills. It's from DBT therapy. You know, they're very into skills, and, you know, viewing these things as skills is very powerful. So view it like a skill. It's something which we work at consistently, like any skill. And when you work it, it works. And then in terms of practicality, I would say take a month and just explore and find what works for you. I was shocked that for me, when I'm stressed, I throw some cold water on my face,
Really?
and it like shocks my system, and
No
I'm
way.
chilling. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I
I
found
like it
that
a
in
lot.
like some therapy book. Yeah. And
You're
I was
like, yo,
like,
let me
where did
try
that come
this.
from? Yeah.
But I'm assuming you tried other methods as well. This took time.
It was while I was like searching.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
to
100%.
give yourself that freedom and space that you're good and trust yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Breakable.
so back to the practicality. So
Yeah.
skills, right? So that being said, with the skills, there's like a bunch of things flying into my mind about practical, and I think what I want to say with practical, I think it's two things mainly. You know, there's so many things. Two things mainly. I think number one, so we said mindfulness. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is, that I am intentionally, so like on purpose, I'm intentionally paying attention to the present moment without judgment. I think that's a phenomenal skill to be practicing, right? I'm on purpose taking a moment to focus and be aware of what is happening right now, and I'm not judging.
That's a big caveat.
I'm not judging. Yeah, that's like bold, underline, italicized, all of it,
Yeah.
Like I'm stressed or I'm walking into the room and I'm feeling very anxious.
Mm-hmm.
This person's talking to me in a way that's not making me feel so good, or I'm, in an argument with my mother, and, okay, we're both raising our voices, and I'm not jumping to who's right, who's wrong. Is it good? Is it bad? Oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. That's already judgment.
That's dangerous over here.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be feeling that way.
Is that why
Exactly.
this should? I was just had a meal in a frat with some people,
Yeah.
and they're all making fun of how in Fishers the word "should" is banned.
Oh, they know about this? Is a
Yeah,
known thing?
it's famous.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
should? Did you see that word? I'm like, oh my
I
god.
thought we were
love
the
that.
only ones that had this inside joke. I didn't
No,
know
no.
that. No way.
Yeah.
But what? It's the same idea that connotes guilt. That there's no should or shouldn't. That's how you feel right now. Just be
Yeah.
aware, be present.
Yeah.
Mindfulness.
Yeah. In a college textbook of mine, they called it the should tyranny.
Hmm.
Whoa.
Because it really takes over the system. It's like, should I, shouldn't I? The way that I understand it, like there's different ways to kind of understand it. I think the way that I understand it is that it keeps it very conceptual. Like it has nothing to do with me. Should I do it? Should I not do it? And many times when you're stuck in that, many times people are using the word should, and it's not this way. But many times when people are using the word should, it's
Could you use the example of the mother just to bring it out for me practically?
yeah. Well, with should, it would be like, should I go to yeshiva? Should I not go to yeshiva? And what seems to happen with should is that it's taking it away from like, do I want to? Do I not want to? What are the reasons I want to? What are the reasons I don't want to? And it brings it to like, because is it the right thing to go?
More of a
Or
guilt
is it
trip.
not the right thing to go? Because like then I'll grow or then I won't grow, which are all great conversations to have. But it's a matter of like, hey, what do you feel about this?
Yeah.
So
The first thing that comes out.
should I help them? Should I not help them? How do you feel about
Right.
helping
But
somebody?
at the same time, like an in touch person, right, would, explore that and be like, okay, should I? How do I feel? Blah, blah, blah. Like, obviously, this is what people want me to do. This is what I, quote unquote, want to do. But, like, should or shouldn't, right? Question is, what's best for me, though? Like, even though that should thing, I might not want to, like, let's say go to yeshiva. I want to go to college, but every time I have to go to yeshiva.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
like, okay, I'll get a bachelor's in yeshiva, but it's not like the same thing. I want the college experience, right?
Yeah.
So, let's say, I'm gonna go off to college, go off to Binghamton, and now I'm gonna be like some crazy whack, off the derech guy that doesn't care about.
Why did you jump there?
But I don't know. I'm just
Okay, fine.
getting extreme
Yeah,
example.
sure.
It doesn't care about anything.
Sure.
Like that's not what my parents want. Is that the right? Even though I want to do that, like, is that what I should do?
For sure.
Quotes.
Yeah, definitely. So, look, if we were having a more personal conversation, so we definitely go into like exploring like what it is that you want to be doing, because you may believe that the right thing to do is to be, like a religious Jew, right? And you may feel that you also really want to go to college, and you know the way that that is for you, and the way that that's associated with you, and the way that you see that happening is that, you know, I'll go to college and I won't be a religious Jew, and
Right.
that's very exciting. And you have these two things which you want. So it's more just in terms of like effectiveness, and more in terms of like you living like a mature adult life, that you can like work through that, and you can just be aware of what it is that's happening for you and get clarity on what it is that you're trying to do. So not that it's wrong to say, I'm going to stay in yeshiva because I should stay in yeshiva. I'm going to go to Shachris because I should go to Shachris. But it's like, why? Because it's the right thing to do. And if you explore that, you know, like why you see that as the right thing to do, then it might be something like, because I want to be connected to Hashem. And it's like,
Or it could be
and it's like,
because
so
that
then
was my value as a when I grew up. Like, if you don't go to Shachris, you're not this, you're not that. So
Right,
it could
yeah.
be both.
That's more of a fear intimidation. That's what we were touching on before.
Right. So to just, you know, the way that I would say it is it's not whether it's true or it's not true. It's just a matter of, are you effectively achieving what it is that you're looking to achieve?
Mhm.
So, you know, if you're looking to be religious, and that's why you're staying in yeshiva, and that's kind of as far as it goes, and like there's so much that I want to be doing, but I'm just tying myself down here so that I'll be religious instead of like not being religious. Like, how long is that going to last? How deep is that?
It's so superficial.
Like,
also,
what's happening there?
my understanding, right? Like, we're all intelligent people. So if my biggest decision of which trajectory I should take to college, yeshiva, what you described, diametrically opposed paths that I'm going to take, either going crazy frat party guy,
Yeah.
or being in yeshiva learning all day. And you ask me, so what's the reason? You say, because I have to. It's the right thing. That's it. There's no like, start exploring. And by the way, also, what you're saying speaks to me a lot, because when I say I want to go to college and be the head of a frat party, it's saying something.
Yeah.
What do I mean by that? Why?
Yeah.
So for one guy, it's because, oh, I get to drink tons of beer. Okay, so what do you mean by that? What do you enjoy about beer?
Yeah.
I like to feel calm and chilled. Oh, so you're looking for serenity, for mindfulness.
Yeah.
I'm looking for popularity, for acceptance, for social hierarchy. Okay, so I'm looking for something else.
Yeah.
So also what you're saying about that idea, when I just shut down because it's wrong, I'm losing so much of myself in there also.
Exactly. Beautiful.
That took me forever to learn. Like, I would shut down a lot of parts of me that wanted to party, to have a good time, because I'm not allowed to.
Yeah.
What am I saying? I want to enjoy. I want to be in a good environment.
Right.
I want to be surrounded by close friends.
Exactly.
Like, tapping into what we
Like,
want.
let's just explore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's not, we so quickly kind of jump into this zone of like, and I think that it's for good reason, because we're so interested in doing the right thing. We're so interested in, you know, whatever it is that we're interested in, you know, Hashem being proud of us, you know, us being on a path that's going to lead to healthy adulthood, or, you know, really just whatever it is. And like, we're so interested in that. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to then like explore ourselves and connect to those values and what it is that I'm ultimately looking for, and then what it is that I want to do to achieve that. Like, we get like lost because, like, I'm not sure why, but I think it's something to do with like this fear of like, oh, because I could only be a certain way if I'm doing it a certain way, and, you know, just associations, and if I'm doing something different, then that's going to end up being something different. Like, I don't have full clarity on it, but I think that to be able to explore what it is that I'm looking for is just going to help me achieve that much more. And, you know, many times, what's awesome is that you'll find that it's not even either or. Like, if you really explore, you know, I have this part of me that wants to be here in Fishers, and I have this part of me that wants to be in college. I have this part of me that wants to keep Shabbos. I have this part of me that doesn't want to keep Shabbos. I guarantee you, most of the time, if not all the time, if you sit with both of those parts, right? Like, let's go back to the practical. So there's mindfulness, and then there's also like really knowing how to connect to yourself, really knowing how to understand what it is that's happening inside of you. I don't know if that's considered practical, because it's not necessarily so quick. It's not necessarily so easy, but it is a skill that you could work at and you could get really good at pretty quickly. when you know what it is that's, when you could connect to like your subconscious, which is so awesome. You could get to know what's the underlying motivator here. What is the underlying motivator for me wanting to do this and for me wanting to do that? And then you no longer have to live in this way, right? So this is, again, going back to, it's not so much what, whether it's true or not true, whether it's right or wrong. I have a part of me that wants to be religious. Let me explore that. Because what is it about being religious? What am I getting from that? I have this part of me that very much doesn't want to be religious. Like, what's the story there? What's happening there? What are the experiences that part is holding that it's saying, I love Yehuda too much for Yehuda to be engaged in this? Again, our systems love us.
Oh, nice.
What, I'm going to let Yehuda be religious when like that part, and many times parts that have stressful, traumatic or very stressful experiences, like they kind of get very like limited to those experiences, and they get kind of stuck there. They're not necessarily aware of all the other beautiful experiences which you've had. Your beautiful experiences and negative experiences may not be integrated into one story of what Yiddishkeit is for me, or of what school is for me, of what my family is for me, and they could kind of be kind of separate. And right, which is why many times you'll see, like, I love my family, I resent my family, I love being with them, I can't spend another day with them. And it's like two different zones. It's like you're two different people. Like, it feels different because like they're not integrated. And many times you'll find that those parts, and this is true in couples counseling also, that they actually want the same thing. They actually both want the same thing, whatever that might be. So like in IFS, we call it, like a polarization. They're both protecting many times the same exile. So let me get an example here. So I don't want to smoke pot. Why? Because, and I'm just kind of making up an example here, but I think things like this I've very much seen for sure with like pornography and things like that, where it's like, I don't want to do this because it doesn't feel right for me. And I know what it's like to not have this and how good that feels. And, the kind of person that I am. And that's very exciting for me. And I want to live that kind of life. Okay. And then there's the part of you which does want to engage in this. Like, what's going on there? And many times it's almost like a little disassociated, that part. It's just kind of like, because we're doing this and this is what we're doing and we're just going to do it,
Right.
It's like a very, many times it's also just reactive. It just kind of happens. And if you connect with that part, it's like, because why would I trust or do anything else? Like, this feels great. Like, oh, but don't do this and you're going to feel great. Like, really?
I
really?
do this and it feels
like,
awesome. Right.
Yeah. Like, so you're telling me that, and again, many times these parts are carrying certain memories, and it's like, really, like those 2 weeks when I wasn't smoking, that was great. Like, do you know what it's like to smoke? Like, do you know what it's like to be high? Like, that part is almost shocked that you're like not on his team, And
you're not even understanding him also. You're not speaking his language.
Exactly.
He's saying it's awesome, and you're saying, no, it's awesome when I don't smoke. And he's like, okay, we're not even communicating. Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly.
Not even gonna try. No, we're smoking right now.
Exactly. He's just trying to have fun because he found that helps you achieve what it is that you're looking for, which is to feel good. And then that part, the part that's not wanting to engage in that is kind of holding, many times it's more intellectual, like kind of holding different like beliefs and different ideas and different experiences, maybe future, right? Many times that part is also thinking about the future, and it gets excited about the future and it wants you to have a better future and things like that. And when you connect with both of these parts and you take a moment and, and you're like, hey, we'll come right back to you, or which one feels like they have to go first. And, they don't have to leave the room, these parts, they're both right there. They're together again, like a couple on a couch, and then they express what it is that's happening for them. And it's like, well, because I care about you, or because I care about raising the kids in a way that's healthy. And this is what, and then you hear from the other side, it's like, well, because I care about you, or because I care about raising the kids in a way that's healthy, and it's like, okay, it sounds like you're both on the same team. It sounds like you both want the same thing, and you both have two different ways of approaching achieving the same goal. And are you ready for this? When you have two different people that want the same goal and two different ways of achieving it, that's a fire team.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
That's a fire team.
Nice.
It's 5 different positions on a basketball team. Or you have like the guy, you got like a sales guy, and he's like, the way to make money, it's all about relationships. It's all about relationships. And then you have like like the office guy who's like, it's all about, you know, the numbers, and, you know,
Right.
businesses fall apart when they don't have the proper
That's a great team.
banking or cash, or like, you know,
So you just
cheshbon
nailed
or
it.
account-
You have the
Right.
relationships and the networking, and then you also
yeah,
have the
like
ins
what
and
are you two
outs.
doing fighting?
Right.
Like if you two get together, you can start a business,
Right.
or both of you are like freelancers, you know, being hired, and if the two of you get together, you could probably get a lot more money also. Like
Or you
it's
both
so much
could
more
start
powerful.
a podcast, you know?
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. There we
I was
go.
gonna say me and Arya, you know, I'm much more on the back end of the, you know, setting up the mics
Amazing,
and the camera
yeah.
and this and that. And Arya's doing a lot of research. He was sitting here for the last 2 hours before,
power.
whatever. And you know, we got some examples of like
Statistics,
Statistics,
etc. We'll
yeah.
get to it. We'll get to
yeah,
it.
we'll
Yeah.
get there. We have plenty of time. But I'm just saying, yeah, that's practical example right here.
Yeah,
Arya and
yeah,
I.
and that's it. That's power. So taking it back to the question, so like, why do we get defensive? Like, why do we get so stuck in the content, in the roles? I'm not sure, you know, but it's probably very complex. It depends on the person, but it probably also just has to do with whatever their experiences were. Like, no, like, like it helps me feel like I'm, you know, doing it this way works. And there's like, I just had an example in my mind, but it just slipped. But, you know, many times it could just be something like I need to be right, because if I'm not right, it just hurts too much,
Right.
you know? Or like, we need to do it this way, which works. And then like, I feel good about that. And if not, then it just hurts too much.
I love it. I love it. I just want to wrap up this
Yeah, sure.
segment so that way we could just move to one other point,
Yeah, sure.
which me and Mo have been very interested about.
Okay.
Done a lot of research on this also. It's going to be an
I'm
amazing
very
conversation.
excited. Yeah.
But I think the main idea was of what we discussed. Tell me if I'm missing anything. Help me fill in. But really this idea of being mindful, I think that's how we started off. One of the main ideas. And obviously it's a skill like anything else. It's going to take time. It's a process.
Yeah.
There are no quick fixes, whether it's ketamine, whether it's reading books, whether it's going on dates. None of it's quick fixes.
Yeah.
It's work, but
Yeah.
we're going to get better and you're going to see progress with, by the way, also friends are very good for that also.
Yeah.
When we
nice.
beat ourselves up, you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? You probably noticed that also.
Mm,
You're like, yo, you're going sick. 3 months ago, you were a wreck. You
Yeah.
know, and now
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
working, you're gaining.
Yeah. Circles of
Yeah.
resources, you know, like real resources, people who are there for you, people who care about you, people who give you insight into yourself, for sure.
Yeah, supportive of your journey.
Yeah. And by the way, like, I would just throw in there that while somebody is going through that process, that many times they could find more quote unquote quick fix kind of things that just help them continue, you know, like just taking a few breaths, washing your face,
Yeah.
you know, picking up the phone and calling somebody, right? That's a big one
Nice.
in like the recovery world. Like, there are things, you know, that can help you
Yeah.
to just sort of relax your system. you
That's
know?
not right. It's interesting you're pointing that out. I feel like when I refer to quick fix, I'm thinking of a magic pill that I just do
Yeah,
this
beginning
once
to end.
and that's it. Sign it off and I'm set to go.
Yeah.
But even what you were saying before, like let's say for example, we're very into our physical health. Oh, you're into yoga also. Do you enjoy yoga or
I
no?
love yoga.
Yeah?
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a sick. So I don't
Yeah.
view that as a quick fix, even though
Yeah.
it could literally be 10 minutes of some stretches and meditation.
Yeah.
But I'm doing that day in, day out, or I'll miss a few days, but get back into it, etc.
Yeah.
So by quick fix, I mean just a one and done, but things take time. It builds, even if it's just washing your
100%,
face,
100%,
taking a few breaths.
100%,
Yeah, it seems like
100%.
I think we're all agreeing that creating these healthy habits is what's going to ultimately lead you to a place you want to be. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's a lifelong journey, but
Beautiful.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Like for me, what I connect to a lot is this idea of like living in accordance with what's important to me and like my lifestyle. So it's more the direction that I'm going in,
right.
you know, like the kind of person that I want to be, the kind of family that I want to raise, the kind of life that I want to be living, the kind of experiences that I want to be having. You know, it's not so much like where I'm going, but like my lifestyle and the direction that I'm going in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's also much more focused on the journey than the actual goal itself.
Right.
Yeah, because we're all becoming, you
Right.
know, nobody became, you know, we're all becoming.
I just
So-
heard last night in the car. It's funny you're mentioning that. There's a very famous rabbi in Aish whose name is Rev Dub Ber Cohn,
Okay.
and he wrote a fantastic book called Mastering Life.
Wow.
So somebody came in furious. He said, who the flip do you think you are, Rabbi? Mastering life? Oh, you're a master already? You're what, 40, 50 years old? That's it, you're done?
Yeah.
He said, buddy, look at the title of the book. It doesn't say master life. I made it. I'm mastering life. It's an ongoing process.
Nice. I love that. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Literally just heard that last
And
night.
like a little side note there, like I
Yeah.
would highly recommend for anybody working on anything to begin using that kind of language, you know?
Right. That's
Like,
very big with therapists. I see like
Yeah.
they're very particular on like their language. Like you before, you weren't saying that using should is bad. You were just alluding to like it could lead to something dangerous. You weren't saying
Correct.
should is bad. Like you should stop using should. It's
Correct.
not like what you're saying.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Like there's no rules and each
Yeah.
individual, you know, does their thing. But yeah, things like, you know, I'm becoming more calm, or I'm getting better at being, you know, relaxed, or, you know, finding the language that just works for you. And, you know, yeah, sit there and talk to yourself, try different sentences, see what hits the spot more, pay attention to your body as you're saying these things, you know, bring the body in, right? We have our thoughts, our emotions, and our body. These are the three core, you know, tools that we have, parts that we have that are, you know, interacting with the world. And, you know, that's like a whole thing. But yeah, like our thoughts, our emotions, and our body, that's how we interact with the world. And those are the things that are taking information in, and it's giving us information about what's happening for us as
Right.
we're there in the world, you know? So if I'm noticing myself all rigid, like I'm noticing how this experience is for me. If I'm noticing all these thoughts happening more than usual, it's telling me what this experience is for me. So it's through those that we're interacting with the world. And then to be able to have harmony and, you know, with all those things that we're so in the moment and we're so in reality, you know, we're so right here, that our body, emotions, thoughts, and me, my stream of consciousness, me, that we're all here together, experiencing it together. And but okay, I don't know if all that kind of made sense or sounded too big.
It's
but-
beautiful. I
but
love
yeah.
that. I wish I could like put that on a quote on the wall. You know? It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Just going on a
Yeah, and then
slightly
there was
separate
another
track.
one.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's
That
go
was,
there.
that was a beautiful wrap up. How much time do we have?
Just enough time for this. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Okay. So we were doing some research and I found it very fascinating that most therapists, I believe the statistic was 75 to 85% of trained therapists are women.
Really?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's a stat. Check it out. I saw many different, but it was all
Nice.
within that range of 75 to 85%. And most consumers of self-help therapy books and anything within that arena are also purchasers, mainly of the female gender. And the question that jumped out to me, and when I showed this statistic to Mo, was why is that?
Wow.
Why are women tend to lean much more towards therapy, towards self-help books, to self-betterment, as opposed to males?
Wow, that's a great question. Like I wasn't aware of that stat. I mean, if I had to guess, then I probably would have guessed that there's
Right,
you know
right.
something. But that's also like a very high number. Wow.
Very high. Very
Yeah,
high.
That's awesome.
Especially because all the therapists that we go to are all male.
Right.
You're
exactly.
a male. Rav Simcha Rabu, we on the previous episode is male.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So then you look it up and you're like, wait, there's low-key a whole world that is mostly
Yeah, we're
women.
just in our bubble, you know?
Yeah.
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 It's a great question.
So what do you think off the
Yeah.
cuff? I know it's just a knee-jerk reaction. What's speaking to you?
My initial reaction, I think, is just being aware of what's happening, you know, with me as you say that, like it just makes me appreciate so much more, you know, being here, working with everybody who I'm blessed to be working with, and being in, you know, like in that world and being around here, you know, this yeshiva, and you know, it like makes it so much more sacred, you know, like wow, like here you have people that are so not statistically whatever the phrase is, like so not
They're
beyond.
the
We're just doing our
outliers.
thing.
Yeah,
You know? It doesn't
so
matter
not
what everybody else
beyond.
thinks. Yeah.
Yeah, people, you know, like you have like a 19-year-old, you know, man who's just sitting there and getting vulnerable, and he's taking the time to be aware of what's happening inside of him, and he's taking the time to think about how he wants to create his life, you know, and how he wants to give himself the space because he matters to himself, you know. It's almost like you know, it's like the process of like reparenting, you know, like who am I? What, you know, what do I like to do? Do I give myself the space to tantrum when I need to tantrum? You know, like it's just so beautiful, and like it's just making me appreciate, you know, all these beautiful experiences I'll have of, you know, a young man saying, you know, I think that I'm going to go for it, you know, something that they want to do, or, you know, I'm realizing that this isn't for me and I'm going to change it up. Like, wow. Like if that's
Courageous.
if that's against the odds, so then it's even crazier. You
Right.
know? Somebody sitting and crying and working through painful memories, which really just means painful negative self-beliefs, you know, and they're actually going there. Like they're not willing to continue living with negative self-beliefs. They're not willing to continue living with these facts in their reality that they're not enough, or that they did something wrong, or that they can't achieve what they want to achieve. So it just makes me realize how beautiful that is. But taking it back to the question, I'm not sure, you know? Yeah, like I know sometimes, you know, like I think I've sometimes heard people talk about that, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure, you know? I know there's a lot more therapy. I know there's a lot more therapy going on. I know there's a lot more access to therapy, and, you know, young men going to therapy. And I was just talking the other day to a therapist who did a some sort of like emotional resiliency kind of workshop, and he said that it was like mostly men, and he was like even surprised by that. So it could be that he saw that stat. Like I'm not sure, but I'm not sure. You know,
Could be we're shifting the trend right here, right now.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly, exactly. Yeah,
Hopefully.
like what I do know is that if that's true, so then we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
And
Let's
like,
do
we
it.
got to be the change.
Yeah.
We got to be the change that we want to see in the world, and we have to, you know, create more access and take away stigmas and things like that.
Right.
And, you know, so that whoever needs feels able to go. You know.
Right. At the same point,
Yeah.
you know, someone that might be listening to this, they're thinking like, yo, okay, everybody's saying, yo, go to therapy. Like, it's so good. It's amazing, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, it's not a magic pill, but
Yeah.
it's not your silver bullet. But at the same time, it's like, yo, I'm going like once a week. Like, how big of an impact did I already have? Like, okay, it's an hour for once a week. Like,
Yeah. Nice.
then what? Then what
Yeah.
I do the other 129,000 hours in the week?
Yeah. Sure.
Like-
sure.
That's not the actual number, but
That's the actual number. Right? We didn't research it.
it's an
Yeah.
exaggeration.
Yeah.
24 times. So 7.
Definitely.
I'm not gonna try.
But yeah, like,
Yeah.
someone that's like contemplating, okay, maybe I should start going.
Awesome.
But like at the same
Yeah.
time, you know, it's only an hour a week, and like how big of an impact could it already have?
Yeah.
What would
yeah.
you have to say to
Yeah.
someone that's having that thought process?
Amazing. So first, I just want to say back to the last question, something
Sure.
that popped to my mind.
I
Two things.
love how you like backtrack. By the way, you like to finish the topic. I really appreciate that.
Mad cool.
It's very, yeah.
Okay.
By the way,
Okay.
I think that's you being present though, because you're in the middle of saying something, I'll interrupt or I'll interject. You'll be present to what I'm saying, and then you're able to go back to where you were thinking and say, I'll get to that. However, I was just very cool.
Nice. Okay. Sweet. Nice. Wow. Nice. Thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, yeah.
So I would say firstly that not that I speak to so many people, but the amount of people that I've spoken to, like I've never heard from a man that he went to therapy and he said that it's too, you know, like it's too women-like, or it's too
Emotionally, feely.
not man, or something
Right.
like that. Like
Not
however
alpha
they would say
enough.
it. Exactly. Like I've never heard that. So I've usually heard very, very positive things. Like, yeah, like I'm seeing how great it is for me to just be able to talk about things, and for me to have that space, and, you know, for sure if there's specific things to heal, and, you know, so that was the first thing. And the second thing that came to my mind was that classic answers that I have heard to those things.
Which question?
You know, like more women are going to therapy, you know, like things like how women might be more emotional, or because let's say women, you know, raise the kids, so maybe there's like more there that's coming up in them.
Right.
So I would just like to say to those that you know, that I think that I've just heard, like I don't even know if that's true, that's what people say. I feel like I've just heard that that's sometimes
Those were the top 5
those
most
kinds
popular
of
answers,
things.
correct?
Yeah, like I would just say like it could be that's why, but I don't see why a man can't also be very in touch with his emotions, or for sure why a man can't be heavily involved with the kids, why the father can't be super involved with their
Sure.
kids.
But historically, that wasn't the case, obviously, meaning times are obviously changing. So people are probably still stuck in the past at the same time.
Could be. Yeah. You know, I wonder. Yeah. Like I think for sure, society, culture, things like that play a role. But you know, it's quality, even if it's a different quantity. And I think that there's only what to gain, nothing to lose, and it's definitely possible for a father to be very, very involved with their kids' lives, and that's not easy because there's a lot going on there. Kids know how to push, where to push, and they're very little. We're super close to them, so it's easier for us to lose our cool. It's easier for us to not to lose our cool, but to not be as nice, to not be as sensitive, to not be as patient, to think that we already know everything, and this is the story of who my kid is, and to not give that space. But okay, yeah, I just wanted to kind of say that on that whatever classic answers, like I would question those classic answers and say like
that.
I hear that, but
definitely not the answer.
That's not good enough for me. Yeah, because it doesn't need to be that way.
Right.
So
it's asking that why that we're discussing earlier. Like, why is that the answer I chose? Well, this is because what women do. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Nice.
Like I would just need to find, a few women that don't do it.
Right.
And then it's like, okay,
There goes that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like that classic thing of men are this, women are that, and
I'll show you.
So you want to be careful with that. Yeah.
Right.
For
Nice.
sure. And so taking it back to therapy. So I think I would say like it's once a week, and I guess like my response would be, that's how powerful it is.
Interesting.
So like the way that I kind of understood the question is like, it's once a week, like, is that enough? And it's like, a lot of the research done on therapy many of it is on weekly sessions. So that's how powerful it can be. That's how powerful it can be. And to be able to just give yourself that time, even if it is just once a week. And many times people will do twice a week. Obviously, sometimes people have a higher level of need, and they may have some sort of, intensive outpatient or inpatient kind of experience. But like the classic weekly therapy experience, yeah, that's how powerful it can be. People's lives are changing, and people's relationships are changing, and people are feeling a lot more effective in their lives from going to therapy once a week.
Do you think it's also my therapist always says that therapy is in between the sessions that we have?
That's a big part of it also. Sure. Yeah.
But
I think that's natural.
Right. I like what you're saying also, which is, right. I don't know if I give enough credit. I kind of was with Mo on the question. It's 1 hour a week. That's it. What are you accomplishing?
Yeah.
And I would have answered, but I'm not even addressing his question, which is that for sure, if it's 1 hour, it's not going to be that effective. It's the work in between of being with yourself, going on dates, of being in touch with yourself. Yeah. And you're saying, of course, that's going to boost you even more. But literally once a week, it's going to.
Correct. And I think that's also natural. Like, I think once you begin to connect to yourself in a different kind of way that I believe therapy has the ability to do, that's why I'm a big, like I work with multiple modalities. IFS is so unique that it's like a different way of relating to yourself. But even before the modality, just being in a space that's so non-judgmental,
right,
and so open, and like you can talk about whatever, I'm in. Yeah, Mike and Ike's. Love that.
Hi, bro.
And like, thanks, dude. And you can like really talk about things, and you can like feel things, and these things are very, very powerful. And I believe that whatever will come after that will just be a natural flow. And it just begins by giving yourself a space to be, a space, that has the intention of, this is my space to be, this is my space to connect to myself, this is my space to talk, Yeah, like it sounds pretty tripped out. Well, like I just go to therapy once a week, and it's like, yeah, it's very powerful. For sure when you get a therapist that you feel connected with, and it's a style that you feel connected with. And, for sure it's very powerful when somebody's really going weekly, and not like missing sessions here and there. Like,
yeah, consistency is big. Like
persistence. Yeah. Consistency, exactly.
It's meant to you, right?
Yeah, nice. Yeah. So it's really powerful. And yeah, like you'd be surprised, and give it a go, give it a shot. And, whatever's going to come through that is going to come through that. Like if you discover in therapy that it's important for me to be doing certain things during the weeks, then you'll do that. And then that's just a part of.
I think it's overall, I just want to clarify, because we're wrapping up, that
sure.
It's not so much because with Reb Simcha Rab also, this is not a therapy podcast per se, and it's definitely not an IFS therapy podcast,
sure.
Right? Although that's something that we're very interested in, and I've seen tremendous benefit. So I just don't want to leave on the note of, if you go to therapy, then you gained and you accomplished from this podcast, although that is very true. And if not, then this podcast was a waste of your time.
Right.
But rather, it's this overall, that's why how I like that we started off with mindfulness, that it's being in that space. And there's so many therapies, probably the most potent of those things to be able to put you in that state of mind of understanding who we are, being honest and authentic with ourselves.
Yeah.
But there's so many ways to utilize it, all the way ranging from ketamine therapy to literally getting yourself a cinnamon bun and a coffee.
Yes.
And just everything in between.
To
And
developing a beautiful relationship with your spouse or
That's
with
huge.
whoever, that you can be yourself and you can share yourself, and you have the space to get to know yourself. You're not stuck in any story. You can be vulnerable, you can be playful, you can like really get to know yourself,
Sick.
And
It's such an exciting journey, no?
it really is.
I'm fired up, honestly.
Yeah. And because the name of this podcast is relatable, right?
Got it.
Yeah, relatable. So just to, I don't know if this will be relatable, but like it took me a long time before I found a therapist. Like I tried a bunch of different therapists, different styles, and it was very, very hard. And there was a while that I didn't do therapy, and then I wanted to get better in certain ways, and I'm like, forget this whole therapeutic approach, let me try a different approach. And like like it can be hard, and you deserve that whatever it is you're wanting to heal, that it can happen so quick, and it stinks when it doesn't happen that way, for sure. Everybody's out there trying so hard, and then they try a few things, and then it doesn't work. Like, what's up with that?
Right.
Like, that's very difficult. And it's important to be aware that that's difficult, and that's not easy, and that's painful. So it's not so easy. It's not so clear. But what's amazing is that once we start giving ourselves the space to connect with ourselves, mindfulness, to just be with what it is that's happening for us, that's where the magic happens, I believe.
Beauty.
That's awesome.
Unreal. Thank you, Yehuda.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys. This is awesome. This is great.
Unreal.
This is a great
Enjoy that mic
conversation.
and Ike.
Yeah, thank you.
L'chaim, bro.
L'chaim.
Nice times
Thank
up.
you.
Yeah.
Fire. All right.
I got a boogie, but thank you guys.
Let's send the recordings.